Hey, loves. Hope you are having a wonderful February. This is one of my favorite months because it's my birthday month. Yes, I am a Pisces. More than that, I am a leap year baby. So my birthday is actually February 29th. So even though it's my birthday month, I guess this year it's going to be March 1st. Okay, so everyone always asks me, is it going to be like, when do you celebrate your birthday when it's not February 29th? Is it going to be February 28th or March 1st? And I'll tell you the story because it's kind of both, but it used to be March 1st. I would always celebrate it. I would say, my birthday is not February 28th. I was born the day after February 28th. So the year I was born, 1980, was February 29th. The 3 years after that, it's going to be March 1st, the day after February 28th. Then Facebook once I joined Facebook, decided to tell everyone that my birthday was February 28th on the years that February 29th didn't exist. So I would get a lot of happy birthday wishes on February 28th. Like, you know how it goes. You get all your friends posting, happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday. And at first I was a little peeved. I was like, no, it's not my birthday. I even one year made a post about it. You guys, if you know me, you know it's March 1st. And everyone would still, every year post happy birthday on February 28th. And it took a while for me to just get over it and be like, fine, it's February 28th, whatever. I will celebrate both days and so be it. But I mean, you have to imagine your whole life you're saying your birthday is, I don't know, let's say July 3rd. And all of a sudden, Facebook comes along and tells everyone, no, actually, her birthday is July 2nd. And everyone's saying happy birthday. You're like, no, my birthday is July 3rd. And no one's listening to you. There's only a handful of people that know or that are close to me that would not do such a thing. And they would say happy birthday on March 1st. But, I grew older and I realized it doesn't freaking matter. Just take the happy birthday and move on. It doesn't matter. But yeah, life is tough as a leap year baby. I mean, I guess it stops there. Everything else is fine, but I will be 45 on March 1st, or according to Facebook, February 28th. So yay, celebrate it. Go Pisces. All the babies born. Oh my gosh, I love working on February 29th because I get to say happy birthday to my fellow leap year babies and be one of the first ones to do it. So happy birthday to my fellow leap year babies. Let me know, do you celebrate it February 28th or March 1st? I'm curious. At school, it was usually March 1st. And I do know some people that celebrated on February 28th. Do you know any leap year babies, guys? All right, let's move on. Let's get on to the episode. Today, I get to welcome my friend Emily Brownlee. She is the owner of Pelvic Floor Fit, and she is a PT that specializes in pelvic floor. And I've had pelvic floor therapists on before because I just freaking love them. And it's becoming more and more popular to do so virtually because it's actually can be done. Yeah, you don't need an assessment. You can learn how to become in tune with your own body and take matters into your own hands. Become an advocate for your health. And that's what I preach, right? So that's what I coach. And it's very, very similar. I don't have the expertise in pelvic floor and muscle and bones like she does. And so that's why I actually just joined her workshop and I'm starting to learn on my own. I know a few pelvic floor therapists. Love you guys. It just was timing wise. I was like, yeah, show me what you got. So I'm working on her workshop right now. It's like $27 to get in. I think it just went up to $49. Sorry if you didn't catch into it, but worth it. And the community is awesome. We're on Telegram chatting and I'm building my own community. I'll talk about it in the closer, but I hope you join me in Discord. I will give the link to my Discord community and it's brand new, right? There's not going to be a lot of people in there. So get in there and you can chat with me. It's going to be free. Okay, come in. Do you like Discord? I love it. Have you used it before? Gosh, I'm going in so many tangents. Let's talk to Emily. I brought her on and yes, she is a specialist in pelvic floor, but I really wanted to get into her birth story. You know how I love birth stories and hers is amazing because she went from induction to C-section to then a VBAC only 17 months later, which, usually the cutoff is 18 months. And I didn't even get into that part, but she went pretty quick. She's a determined young lady and takes on a challenge. So she did that. And then now she's pregnant again, 34 weeks, and she is planning on a home birth. So we got to talk a little bit about that. So I hope you enjoy this episode here with Emily Brownlee. Welcome to the Birthling Podcast, presented by My Friend's a Nurse. I'm your host, Colette Wacoliker, a high-risk labor and delivery nurse right here in sunny California. I'm also an OB certified specialist, birth educator, lactation expert, and mother of 2 beautiful daughters. I am passionate about guiding you through the miraculous journey of pregnancy and childbirth, using evidence and history and asking the reason why. I have some incredible medical friends and colleagues, and we're all here to help you navigate this often overwhelming birthing hospital system in the United States. My goal is to gain trust in birth, improve this system, and provide some valuable insights. Let's make this journey a little less daunting and a lot more joyful. Let's get into it. Hi, Emily. Thank you so much for joining the Birthling Podcast. How are you doing?
Hey, doing great. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor.
Oh, of course. I mean, I feel like we're becoming friends over this last, few months, especially. We're in the same mastermind together, and I've been able to follow you on Instagram and everything you're doing with physical therapy and pelvic floor health and just inspiring moms. I mean, dude, you're pregnant right now. Usually when I talk, you have a baby on your hip, and it's just like amazing. It's so inspiring that you can get it done like that. And I'm sure you relate to so many women. Listen, we have to get in. I know you have a whole business and you are a working mama of 3 and you're doing it all. But we spoke before, and I'm very curious to learn more about your own birth story, because you told me some about it. You've gone from a C-section to VBAC to now a home birth. It's just like, whoa, this is amazing, honestly. And it's empowering and you're so confident. So I want to know more if you can dive into the history of your babies and your birth story.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll say it's been a crazy journey. I've changed a lot through it, and I feel like that's kind of a common thread for a lot of mamas. I had these big dreams of like what I wanted birth to be like. Even with my very first, I was starting to learn about pelvic health. I was still pretty new to it. And I had like these beautiful dreams of like birthing in a field and all these things. And my husband was like, absolutely not. Like, we're doing the hospital, we're doing that. Like, we're not. He was not crunchy at all. And I really wasn't that crunchy myself either. So we went the traditional OB-GYN route. I really liked my OB-GYN. She was super sweet. We got along really well, but I had a very natural birth plan. I wanted to, go unmedicated as much as possible. I really, tried to support my body well, but I also went into that process, 6 years of overtraining and under eating, and then kind of did the flip side of like, screw it, I'm going to gain weight anyway. So eat all the things, who cares? Really had a pretty brutal pregnancy because I just treated my body like garbage. I didn't train as consistently. I gained way more weight than I needed to. So I went from someone who ran a half marathon not long before I got pregnant to somebody who couldn't walk a mile because my shin splints hurt so bad. And then around 30 weeks, we started seeing that my son was super, super small, which isn't really that surprising. I'm a petite woman. My husband is not large. He was not large when he was born, but they were really concerned. And so they started wanting to do a bunch of additional testing. We never saw anything that was wrong with him or anything, but they started saying, we're going to have to induce at 37 weeks. And I kept asking why, there's nothing that seems to be wrong. And knowing what I know now, I probably would have actually advocated for myself harder. I would have tried to push that timeline out quite a bit, but I was a first-time mom. I was intimidated. So I just kind of went along with it. And honestly, my pregnancy was so uncomfortable. I was almost relieved, like at least this is about to be done. So we were induced at 37 weeks with my first, which if you know anything about the statistics, it did not go well. They jumped straight into Pitocin, and 30 hours into Pitocin, I had not dilated whatsoever. my son was decelling. And so then they started pushing the cesarean, and I was devastated, but I was exhausted. And so I was like, fine, whatever. So we had the cesarean. My son wound up in the NICU from the stress of all of that. And I broke. I mean, just watching my sweet little boy in the NICU and feeling like, how do we end up here? Like, I'm a healthy woman. Like, I was, shredded before this pregnancy. I was super healthy. Like, how did we end up here? Where did I go wrong? And that postpartum recovery was horrible. Like, I really hit rock bottom. I lost myself. I didn't know who the heck I was anymore. And I really didn't think I'd ever feel like myself again. I had started my business when I was pregnant, and I took a huge step back and was like, I'm just trying to figure out how to even be a mom. Definitely can't do that with a business too. And then I really, it's kind of a crazy story, but I also destroyed my knee between that recovery and getting pregnant with my daughter. I got pregnant with my daughter 8 months postpartum, destroyed my ACL and MCL at 6 months postpartum. So I was starting to kind of feel better, destroyed my knee, had a massive reconstructive surgery on my knee, found out we were pregnant with my daughter immediately after that surgery. And anybody who knows me knows, like, I love a good challenge, and nothing could make me like snap out of that postpartum like depression and feeling like I lost myself than having an even like crazier challenge. Like, now you're not just recovering postpartum, you're recovering from a reconstructive surgery and you're pregnant. Go, Emily. And so I actually did the 75 hard challenge, which I wouldn't recommend to most pregnant women, but that's what I did. And it lit a fire under my butt, and it showed me like I could be, a bad mama again. Like, that Emily was still in there. I had a much better second pregnancy, even, learning how to walk again, learning how to do body weight squats again as my weight was going up. That was a really great pregnancy. I really enjoyed it. And then I wound up with a beautiful VBAC, which actually we did midwifery care with my daughter, which I was really excited about. I thought, midwifery, they're going to respect my wishes more. They're going to, not push me into interventions I don't need, which was also pretty naive because not all midwives are the same, just like not all OB-GYNs are the same. And we were taking really great care of all prenatally. And then when I was in labor, they were overbooked. And so they just transferred me to the hospital. So I went from a team that I was super used to and knew and trusted to complete and total strangers for my entire birth experience. But we went to the hospital Christmas Eve, and we had the most incredible L&D nurses. We had the most incredible OB-GYN resident. It was like such a blessing. And we wound up with a VBAC Christmas morning. My daughter was the first baby born in the hospital Christmas morning last year. And it was the coolest thing. Like, she was born, and I just looked at my husband. I was like, oh my God, we just did that. Like, there were so many moments where I thought, like, I've had a cesarean. That's going to have to be my story from now on. And it was like, I actually accomplished this. Like, I took care of myself. I advocated for myself better. I learned things. And now in this third pregnancy, since I wasn't recovering from reconstructive surgery or anything crazy, I could just take care of my body. I have felt so good. It's been so enjoyable. I'm 34 weeks right now and feeling amazing. I can still do pull-ups. Like, I could go for a run. I really don't, because it's just like, it's not really beneficial. It takes too much energy out of me at this point, but like, my body feels awesome. I'm super excited for this birth. We're about to have our first home birth, so I'm really excited about that. And I think for me, like, the biggest thing I learned throughout my journey was just like, learn how to support yourself and learn how to advocate for yourself. It's so hard as ladies because we don't want to ruffle any feathers or hurt anyone's feelings, but like, you are the one in charge. Like, these people work for you, not the other way around. And so, if you're not getting what you need, be okay with telling them like, I want a second opinion, or I need, this is what I want, and like standing up for yourself. And you don't have to be rude, but it makes a huge difference and it's worth it.
Wow. Emily, thank you so I was sitting here like half the time my jaw was on the floor. I have like a page of notes. I'm like, damn, I didn't know all that. That's amazing. And I just like experience is key. I think a lot of moms that search for like doulas or midwifery or a birth coach like me are coming because they've had an experience that left them with so many questions, with this trauma that a lot of people may say isn't a trauma, or they should just get over it or whatnot. But how can I do better next time? And you're just like me.
Yeah.
You go for a challenge. You're like,
Yes.
oh, you watched me do this. I can do this. And it's like you have to find yourself during postpartum. I tell women that a lot. Like you have to, like, you go through a period of recovery, and then you really have to find who you were before you became a mom. And it looks like you did that in a huge way. Oh my gosh. Like I was taking notes as if you were a client. Like I was going to discuss all this stuff. I'm like, oh, we're doing a podcast. I forgot for a second. Like so many notes. And I love that though. So I have to know what made you decide on a home birth now. Like I'm so happy to hear that you had a great hospital experience. And I told you before we started recording, like I am not an enemy of the hospital. Like I work there. I enjoy working there. It's just, I meet so many nurses and doctors that are coming in with their own biases, which leads to this like toxic environment and this lack of informed consent that I'm really strongly against. So I'm working on the inside to try to change that in my own way. But it just makes me so happy to hear that you get that team and that it matched, like you met it right at the time that you could also advocate for yourself. So you had that understanding of the difference between, starting Pitocin 37 weeks, your first baby right off the bat. Like, of course the baby's and the baby's small, which means that it's not as developed, doesn't have the reserves as a larger baby would have to just go straight. Of course it had decelerations and all this stuff, but how would you know? You know what I mean? And then you came with that experience and that education and that power that you gained throughout your pregnancy while you were recovering and working out and eating right and all of that. So it's just like all things came together and gave you this amazing VBAC story, which I am so happy to hear about. But now you're going to, and I have an amazing pregnancy. I watch you building this business of yours online and helping so many other moms during their pregnancy journey and even fertility journey. And I even jumped in. I'm 4 years postpartum and I'm like, girl, give me some exercises. And so I'm really enjoying that. And we'll get into that in just a minute, but I just have to know now, like, how'd you change your husband's mind? Is it just watching you have that feedback and he's like, hell yeah, let's give birth in the grass. I'll do it. What made him how'd you decide on a home birth?
Yeah, well, and I'll say, like, I know you and I have chatted about this, and it's something I love about what you do because I'm a very black and white type of personality. So like I'm in or I'm out. Like that's all there is. There's no gray for me. So like I was like the medical system failed me. I'm out. Like I'm all midwifery now. Like I'm never going back to an OB-GYN. But I'm also fortunate that like my family, we can just pay cash and we can do that. And like that's, totally doable for us. For the vast majority of women, that's not possible. And so having someone like you so that they can stick with the traditional system and still have a great experience because they have the educational background, they understand how to advocate for themselves, because it isn't, you have to do midwifery or you have to do a home birth to have a good birth. That's absolutely not true. That's just for me what made me feel most empowered and most comfortable because, I mean, honestly, even last time, like getting in the truck and going to the birth center, that was the most excruciating 15 minutes in that truck. And we actually went to the birth center twice. And then we got transferred to the hospital. And I was like, this is terrible. And that's like the top thing I'm so pumped about with the home birth is like, I don't have to get in the freaking car. I can just have my baby and my kids can be there. And like, it's just going to be so chill. And that's my personality. And that's what I was really excited for. And that's not right for every mom. So I love what you're doing of like teaching women, like there are in-betweens that can be amazing. And so it doesn't have to be like you have to do home birth or you're going to get a cesarean in the hospital. There's tons of in between. But for me, I've always really wanted this. That's always been kind of my dream. It's my vibe. And my husband has a lot of, birth trauma things in his history. It's kind of a long story, but he has a lot of fear surrounding birth. And I've always had like a very, he is the head of our family. Like I respect that. I don't, try to push him or manipulate him into things, but it's always been something I've really hoped like he would be open to because, it's something our whole family is doing together. It's not just about me, but he actually, when we discovered we were pregnant with our third, I told him I'd really, really love to do a home birth. And he said, I will at least consider it and be open to it. If I feel really comfortable with the midwife, then okay. Because I realize I'm going to be a nervous wreck, whether you're in the hospital or you're at home, it doesn't matter. I'm still going to be nervous and worried about you. And if this is what makes you feel comfortable, then I trust you and I'm like ready to let you do what you want to do. And I was like, thank you so much. Like that means so, like our marriage has grown so tremendously through our parenting journey, which, I mean, we got pregnant with my son our first month of marriage. So that also was like, oh yeah. We got married end of October. We got pregnant in November. Like we didn't waste any time. So we've really like grown as a married couple as we have gone through, some serious chaos and being able to learn how to like trust ourselves and trust each other and find like, this is the best birth team I've ever had. I'm obsessed with my midwife and doula and they're amazing, but it really makes all the difference. Like who you have on your team, how you are educated, how you learn how to advocate for yourself. And that's something I love, like the fact that you can do this virtually because, you can't always find the right people locally, but with the technology we have, you can help them from wherever they are.
I never have a call, and it doesn't matter how experienced or inexperienced, like even I'm like, let's get on a 30-minute call. I never have a call where I don't find something that I can help them with. Like I know I can see the blind spots in communications, and I love to be part of that team where I'm not going to be there at the bedside, but I'm just going to kind of wrap it up. I'm a little bit of a consultant, if you will. Right? So how is your midwife? How's your doula? Okay, let me give you a few questions you can ask yourself and you can ask them and maybe you can think about. They're like, oh, and then nobody brought that up. Because I'm coming in with eyes of a labor and delivery nurse, right? I'm highly trained in the high risk situations, like what could really happen. And so is the midwife. Don't get me wrong. But I'm coming in like with another set of eyes, with other experiences, right? And now that I've been doing this for a year and a half on just coaching, and I have learned how to ask the questions that gets the whole consent, to get the whole idea of what's happening. So I have not been trained in that. Midwives and nurses are not trained in coaching and physiological birth in that way. Like I really had to step out of the hospital to learn it, and then training myself in communication and in, like just human dynamics, almost like social dynamics, right? And then team building, like your partner is a team and you see him as a vital part of that team and how he's coming in with fear. So now you're like, how can we help him recover that fear with still like, so he's coming in with less anxiety because that's going to transfer into your birth setting, right? So he's one that really needs to get some work done and watching videos of home births and happy situations and all of that. And then asking those hard questions and maybe watching the stuff that really upsets you a little more. Like if you're watching an interview, you're like, oh, I didn't like to see that at all. Okay, well now you got to watch it 5 more times. Congratulations.
Yes.
Until you're not
Right.
scared of it. And now you're like, that's how we're trained, right? So I'm so excited for you. We can have a separate call ourselves if you want one day, and I just go over it with you. I'm excited, especially like what a transfer would look like, just to, because you've never had that. Like what, and that's something that I would talk to a client about, like what a transfer from a hospital from a home birth to a hospital. Not that it's going to happen, but it's going to be so much less scary. Like I have women that are like, oh, that wasn't bad at all. When I'm the nurse that accepts them, they're like, oh, I was so nervous and scared and that wasn't bad at all. I'm like, no, girl, like we can create the home setting right here in the room. So the transfer doesn't have to be that difficult at all. But except, the car ride isn't the best, like you said. I hated my car ride. Oh my God. I had a 15-minute drive to the hospital and I think I went to 7 centimeters in the car. I was like, brutal. Holding on for dear life, like, just baby, don't come out right now. Okay, Emily, we have to get into, I love the home birth thing. Congratulations. Best of luck. We'll chat more about that later. You guys, if you have any questions for Emily on her birth story, send them to me or find her at it's pelvic.floor.fit. It'll be in the show notes. But let's talk more about that. Let's talk about pelvic.floor.fit and your journey as a PT into pelvic floor health and what inspired you to do that. You said you had just started during your first pregnancy and now you're a pelvic floor specialist. And tell me more about your business and what you do.
Yeah. So I actually originally wanted to become a surgeon. I was like dead set on that for over a decade of my life. Like I majored in cell and molecular biology. I was like studying for the MCATs, getting ready. And I had this huge shift where I was like, man, I don't want to spend like 5 minutes with somebody. Like I want to really get to know them and really help them and, do more than just prescribe them medication. Movement would make like 90% of the chronic conditions and illnesses and problems that we see disappear. So I switched over to physical therapy and I practiced orthopedic and sport physical therapy for quite a while and loved it. But around that time, all of our friends started getting pregnant with their first babies and had questions. And I was like, man, I really don't know. Like, we didn't really talk about that in school. We had like one lecture on pelvic health and that was about it. And so I started my pelvic health education after my doctorate. And I started realizing like, oh, this is why I hit walls with some of my back pain patients. Cause I'd get them like, some of them I got them all the way better and some would get like stuck at 85, 90% better. And I just couldn't figure out like, why aren't they all the way better? What am I missing? I feel like I'm doing all the right things. And then I learned about pelvic health and I was like, oh, duh. And now, we have all these meta-analyses that show that 95% of back pain is caused by pelvic health dysfunction. So I got super excited about that to, empower anybody, but especially mamas, because our bodies just go through so much throughout this process. And it's honestly not rocket science. It's really not, but it's just something we're not really well educated on. And so it became really a huge passion of mine to simplify it and make it really easy to understand, especially as a mama. I wanted to spend less time away from my kids in the clinic and spend more time at home with them while still helping moms. And I know other moms feel the same way. Like they have crazy schedules. They don't want to make another appointment on their calendar. They don't want to pay, through the nose for individual sessions. So I started creating these programs and online resources so they could learn how to connect with their pelvic floor, their core, how to improve this foundation on their own time, make it really simple, really practical, not take a bunch of time out of their day, and just kind of demystify it because it's honestly not that complicated, but it makes a big, big difference. So that was kind of where Pelvic Floor Fit came from and why I became so passionate about it. And I also feel like the exercise piece of it is a lot of women feel intimidated of like, how am I supposed to exercise during pregnancy? What's actually safe? A lot of the recommendations are like, walk, which walking's fine, but it's not going to do anything to actually support the amount of body weight that you're gaining. It's not going to do a whole lot for your joint laxity. It's not going to prepare your body specifically for birth. It's kind of a general health practice, but it's not specific. And I'm all about like, we don't have hours and hours to exercise a day. Let's be efficient. Like in 10 minutes, what do I need to do so that I can feel really good during pregnancy, birth, and postpartum? So that's what I've really tried to create with my workshops, with my subscription, even with my free content of just like, how do I simplify these things to make them really easy to understand, really easy to implement, and to be consistent with? Because if we're not going to stick with it, it's not going to work and it's not going to help us. And, you know, as moms, a lot of the time our plans get derailed. So we've got to have a plan B, C, D, and so on. It has to be something that's realistic. So, you know, I went from somebody who loved training 2 hours a day. Now I get 10, 15 minutes, but I still feel great. And so that's really what matters at the end of the day.
That's great. And it's empowering that you kind of can learn it on your own and take control. Like you're not so dependent on going to this person's office once a week and then, you know, she's telling you what to do. And then you're like, wait, don't leave. Like you can kind of like be with them every day for those 2 minutes. And that's great. Have you found like that works though? Like going in person versus a virtual? Because I think you do a lot of work virtually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm exclusively virtual at the moment. And that's honestly, as a PT, like we're a hands-on profession. And so to me, I was like, how could you possibly do this virtually? Like you have to do a hands-on assessment. How could you possibly know? But I wanted to be home with my baby so bad. I was like, I'm going to find a way because I'm not going to like half butt this, you know, PC way to say it. I'm not going to compromise care. Like if it's not effective, I'm not going to do it. But there's got to be a way. And the more I practiced it, the more I loved it because there are so many women who have trauma or they just don't feel comfortable with a vaginal exam or, you know, like they wouldn't want to do that anyway. Like for some women, that is super traumatizing. It's really vulnerable.
I didn't like it.
Gosh,
I didn't even know it was going to happen. All of a sudden, she was like, had her hands inside of me. I was like, hello. That's
and
not appropriate.
I will say there are some women who really do need an internal exam to get a full picture of what's going on. And so I'm not going to say like all pelvic health can be done externally or virtually. There are definitely limits. But I feel like for 90% of the women that I talk to, simply educating them, walking them through these things, asking them, like you said, really good questions. They're like, oh, I've never thought about that. I've never tried to do that. Using certain analogies and pictures and images to like explain what they should be trying to feel and what they should feel, having them in different positions. Like you just have to be a really, really good coach and a really good communicator. And it has been so empowering because like you said, like, yeah, I have done a ton to gain this education, but at the end of the day, it's not about me. It's about the moms that I'm helping. And I want them to be the expert on their own body. I want them to walk away and go, I know how to do this stuff now. Like I'm not relying on Dr. Emily to tell me my pelvic floor is a 3 out of 5 strength because I know what it is and I know how to work on it. And I know when I have back pain, I know why and I know how to fix it. When I pee my pants, I know why that happened. I know how to fix it. I can tell the difference between when my pelvic floor is overactive or when it's weak. Like I know that personally and I personally know how to fix it. And I always thought like, okay, if that's not the result I'm seeing, then okay, then I will not do it. But time and time again, these moms are like, oh my God, light bulb. Like I've never felt that muscle before. I thought I was engaging my core, but my lower abs have been asleep for 10 years or whatever. When you explained it that way, just all of a sudden it clicked and now my back pain's gone and now I can get back to back squatting or, when I pick up my toddler, it doesn't hurt anymore or, I can be intimate with my husband and it doesn't hurt. Like those are the things I'm like, yes, like, cause it's honestly not that complicated. And there is so much that you can learn to self-assess and self-treat. Obviously there are limitations, but additionally, like a lot of pelvic health clinics have 3-4 week wait times, which is brutal. And then a lot of them are self-pay because insurance doesn't typically reimburse well. So that gets super expensive, super time consuming. You're suffering the whole time you're waiting, or you can grab a course and learn this in your own home, in your own time, and come back to it time and time again if you need the help. So it's been kind of a crazy process, but it's been the coolest, most humbling, like honoring thing I've been able to do is like teach these moms about their own bodies and how to be the expert.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of what I'm doing. Like I'm not at the bedside. I'm not gonna be telling you what to do or what not to do. I don't do that. But I teach you how to become in tune with your body and how to advocate for yourself and build a team around you. And that's kind of what you're doing. Like we're all like as women, we really need to become, in pregnancy or not, mom or not, like really in tune with our body, like to know like we're tired. Why are we tired? What did I eat today? What am I drink? Am I drinking enough water? Like, am I moving enough? Why am I feeling depressed? Like what, like mentally as well. Like we really want to become aware of our body, how we're feeling and get that baseline so that we know when there's issues, what could possibly be the problem. And we can do that without anyone. There's like just being really self-aware and take notes and doing all of that. But how much quicker can we do it with the right coach or the right guide? Right? Like I could work out every single day, go to the gym for an hour and not get the results I want without like trial and error. But if I get a great coach, like bam, 1 month I am exactly where I want to be because they've done that trial and error work. So you have that experience in education and have worked with so many women that you'll be able to speak with someone virtually and know, okay, this is the issues you're having. Let's find out your baseline. Let's find out how to assess yourself and become in tune with yourself. And I learned a lot of that during my fertility journey. And we talked about that before too, right? That's where I learned my cycle and what my body was doing and the food that I was eating, how it affected it, how I was moving. And it affected my pregnancy. It affected the birth and it affected my recovery. Like I was able to manage it so much quicker. So I can see now, because I was always like, no, I mean, you got to go in and get that. It's like, how are they going to know individually what's wrong with you? And then, it just clicks. You're like, oh, because you're living in your own body. You can figure out what's wrong with you. And then you can tell them the symptoms and then you can give them, the right. So it's tough to get, I'm sure it's tough for you to say like general content, let's say on your Instagram, like everyone should do this and everyone should do that because it's very individualized. So getting into a workshop and then learning how to assess yourself and the proper body mechanics for general population, that kind of stuff, I'm sure is invaluable, right? We really need a good guy and women supporting women and just for us to get into the community and help each other out this way through something as major as, nutrients and becoming moms and pregnancy is so cool. I love it.
Yeah. Oh, it really is. And like, there's so much nuance to everything, especially motherhood. And so the more that I just feel like it keeps coming back to questions and like learning how to be the expert of your own body. Because when you learn the right questions to ask, that gives you the right answers. Because like you were talking about with energy, it's like you'd think like, well, if you're really tired, then you need to rest. Not necessarily. If you're really tired, you might need to work out more. It might be that you're not moving enough. And so like, what are the right questions to ask and what's the timing of those questions? And that's the kind of stuff I love to teach because then mom understands what she needs better. Like our bodies are so smart and they will give us the right answers, but we have to ask the right questions. So
and it's sad,
that's
like we really can't expect our doctors to be asking us these questions. Like when we go to our annual doctor's appointment or our gynecological appointments or even our PT appointment, like you have 15 minutes. Like they're going to assess you themselves. Oh, it's weak and da-da-da. But they're not asking me like, well, what do you do during the day? Like, what is your diet like? What, where are you, how often are you peeing or you feel like it's so many different questions that are individualized. It would take them hours and hours to figure it out, right? And they just don't have time for that. So you really, really have to start advocating for yourself right now by asking yourself those questions and getting a coach like you or like me to do that. And pelvic floor, look, Emily, I'm telling you, I was 6 years in labor and delivery, zero mention of pelvic floor specialist or PT, so I never recommended
Yeah.
anything. I didn't know. Nobody told me. I had no idea until I started My Friend's a Nurse and I started meeting physical therapists that specialize in pelvic floor. I'm like, I'm sorry, excuse me? That's a thing? Because
Oh, yeah.
I'm 20 years overdue. I need to go fix my own problems, and it's like, why don't expect even your OB to suggest or recommend a pelvic floor specialist? And most is like, we just don't know. I'm so glad it's becoming more popular, especially virtually. And we're getting this knowledge, but I don't think if I started My Friend's Nurse, I would know about it still. So I'm glad you're out here. I'm glad you started your new podcast. We have to do a shout out for Pelvic Floor Fit. It was really good. I really enjoyed it. I'll put a link for it in the show notes as well. Emily's not lying. 10 minutes a day. Listen to her 15 minutes a day. Binge it once she gets those episodes in. It's really good. And you really get to know you. So you feel really comfortable, working with you. And then I love that. Congratulations on the podcast. And I know you have great workshops that you can get in and start learning about your own body, you guys. Like Emily's going to help you do that. Emily, before we go, give me one maybe tip for our listeners. If you could leave them with something like tangible that they can go right now work on, what would you tell them?
Yeah. So I would say, first and foremost, like no matter when you're hearing this, like whether you are trying to conceive or you had your last kid a long time ago, there is no wrong time to start working on your pelvic floor and on your pelvic health and your fitness. Our bodies are amazingly resilient, and always getting started sooner is going to set you up for, less aches and pains down the road, but we can recover from literally anything. So the starting point is just getting moving, doing something that's actually practical that you're like 90+% sure you can stick with. If you're not going to stick with it, why even start? So pick something that you can be consistent with and really check in on like, how is my body responding to this? How does my sleep look? How does my energy look before, during, and after that exercise? How is my mood regulation? How's my digestion, my skin, hair, and nails? Like, look at those types of factors to tell you if what you're doing is supportive or not, and make tweaks as you go. Like, you're not going to get it right the first time. That's okay. Just keep tweaking, keep working on it, keep being consistent. And yeah, absorb good content. Like, hear from people who are actually going to give you good ideas to try out. Make sure you find somebody who's a good fit for you. Because I'll even say, like, even some of the OB-GYNs who do know about pelvic health PT have told my clients and patients that they would not refer them. Like, even if they were having painful intercourse and things like that postpartum, they're like, that's just normal. You don't need PT. So you really have to find the experts who are going to support you, and don't feel bad firing ones that are not supporting you.
Yeah. If there's a problem, if you're suffering, don't take it's normal as an answer. No.
Yes.
Keep looking, keep searching. You already found us, so you already know if you're listening to this. And follow Emily at pelvic.floor.fit on Instagram and social media. I'll again leave it in my show notes, but yeah, pelvic.floor. What's the name of the podcast?
So it's the Pelvic Floor Fit podcast.
Oh yeah, of course it is.
I just tried to keep it super simple.
If you want to go to her, if you want to go to her website. And I know you are hosting a workshop right now. Are you still running that?
Yes, so I actually have 3. They're on demand, so anyone can get in whenever. So there's one that's called Birth Like a Boss, obviously working on preparing your pelvic floor and your health for birth, but it's great for anybody in any stage of pregnancy, just to support your entire journey. I have Restore Your Core, kind of aimed at like the first 6 weeks of postpartum recovery. And then I have 30 Days to Fit and Confident. So if you're trying to get back into shape and you want to do it in a really supportive way that's actually doable for busy moms, then that's a great one for you.
Excellent. So go to her website, pelvicfloorfit.net, or follow her on IG. Emily, thank you so much. This was so much fun, and I'm so happy that you came on. Maybe I'll come on yours one day, and I will definitely see you in the mastermind. Thank you so much, Emily.
Thank you so much. It was a blast and an honor.
Oh, good. Bye. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode. I really hope you enjoyed listening to Emily's story and her mission to help moms. It only takes 10 minutes a day and you'll feel great, right? I still can't believe it takes only 10 minutes. I'm about to go to the gym right now and I know I'm going to be there for about an hour and a half, but I'm excited to start incorporating the exercises she's given me and kind of figure out my own assessments in my own body. And you can do it too. And start now. It doesn't matter if you are not pregnant, that you don't ever want to be pregnant, that you're a birth worker. You get to know your body, girl. Like things change as we get older. And especially if you're going to go through pregnancy and you're going to have a baby, carry that baby to term, it's going to affect your bone structure and your muscles and your bladder and other organs. Like it just does. Whether it's a C-section or a vaginal delivery, things are going to change. So figure out your baseline right now. The sooner, the better. Where are you at? Get in tune with it and follow Emily for more. Remember, she is at pelvic.floor.fit at Instagram. And you can follow her. You can find her at her website, again, at pelvicfloorfit.net. And then that's where all her workshops are. Okay. And don't forget to follow Pelvic Floor Fit podcast she just started. I think there's an episode in there. She's going to be spitting them out weekly. And about that, guys, like I was going weekly since July with the Birth Link. And then I went to India and that just got messy. I didn't have the episodes in. I'm just like, where am I in this world? You know, we go through that period. Consistency is key and I'm doing the best I can. So I know I missed a week or two here and there. I'm still here, guys. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going every other week right now. And then when I can, I'll slip in one weekly. Okay. I'm here for you. If you have questions or topics or want to share your birth story though, come on, because the more I can record, the more motivated I get, like the more stuff I can send to you. What are you interested in? You know, I love the history on things. You know, I love the evidence-based practices and why, the question of why we do things in the birth world, in health, in medicine, and just in life, right? You got to know why. Otherwise, you're just like pulling at strings and you don't understand. And you're going to be taken advantage of. You're going to be wasting time. Find your why. Right. And that goes with nurses and doulas and doctors, all of us. So I'm here. I want topics. I have so many that I have so many things to talk about. I don't even know where to start. We'll get to pushing. We'll get to that second stage of labor. I want to talk about pregnancy. I want to talk about fertility. I want to talk about it all. So got to get organized, got to stay consistent. That goes for us all, right? I'm not, I'm not special. We're all just doing the best we can. And I'm here for you. I'm here coaching clients. And I just want you to have the birth you've always wanted, to take control of your health and your body and your baby like I know you can. All right. Thank you, Emily, for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Bye. Thank you for listening to My Friends and Nurse presents the Birthling Podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and found it valuable. Before we go, a quick reminder. The information shared on this podcast is for educational purposes only and should not be considered medical advice. Always consult with your healthcare provider for any medical concerns or questions. If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends. Your support helps us reach more people and continue to bring you great content. Until next time, stay healthy and stay informed.